Hello, this is Keith Robertson, and you are listening to Cre8tive Heads podcast channel. I am sitting here with the founder of Cre8tive Heads, Jocelyn Robinson. If you listen to let's call it last week's podcast, we
Yep.
asked Jocelyn why Cre8tive Heads. Today, we are going to ask her, how did it all begin? And if you are like me, you love montages and you love seeing things be built into a great success, and that is what we are here to listen to today. So, Jocelyn, feel free to do your Jocelyn-ish things.
Hi
Yeah,
guys.
take it how wherever your mind takes you. Now, Jocelyn is super hilarious. If you don't know this, her mind will go a million
It will.
places.
It
So
will.
please
I'm still
follow
trying
her.
to. I'm
Yeah,
still working
and
on like my intro. Hi
now,
guys.
I mean that's cool. That's cool for now. Well,
I'm gonna come up with something.
Very Nickelodeon-ish, and it's cool. It's hopefully you listening to this at like 5 in the afternoon.
Right. Right. Okay.
Jocelyn, thank you for being here,
Well,
and
thank you.
thank you for sharing your insight and sharing your story. So I'm gonna just ask the question and go for it. How did Cre8tive Heads begin from the very inception up till now?
So honestly, I'm gonna give like the honest answer. So I had a nonprofit. Building on Faith was the nonprofit, and we were, again, the background is in architecture and design, and I doing a lot of community work in the community with redevelopment initiatives, beautification initiatives, and branding for small businesses, churches, community centers, and schools. And what happened was we were, still doing the beautifications, the community cleanups, but there were so many mom and pop businesses in the city of Atlanta that needed branding. And we kind of went in and we was like, okay, so let's offer these brand packages that, that we can charge minimal prices, this, that, and the third. But it did not align with the nonprofit, just the under the nonprofit period. So it kind of, those services, they weren't aligned with our mission. And I had to create a business to kind of be a catch all for some of the creative things, because we were at that point doing a lot of campaign and a lot of things that weren't aligned with the mission for building on faith. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to get in trouble with IRS or Uncle Sam or any of those people up there that, handle the money. So I was like, I tried to just tuck it all under the nonprofit, and they were just like, absolutely not. So I was sitting down and I was like, let me do something that's a little bit more in tune with the creative side of me, that can kind of give me the creative freedom to go help these businesses, and in a way to where we could, do branding, do strategy, do some of the, photography, some of the things that allowed us to kind of just creatively be like have fun. So we sat down and came up with Cre8tive Heads in 2016, because I could not tuck it under the nonprofit. And then after I sat down and I talked to God about it, because I was like, Lord, is this something that you approve of? I always pray over any, especially if it's another business. I was like, God, let me give this to you, because I started doing it and I had to go back and be like, ooh, God, is this cool? Can I do this? And so after I prayed about it and sat down and talked to one of my mentors, they were just like, go for it. Like, why? Why not? And I was just like, I mean, if God says so, we finna rock. Finna rock with it. So that's kind of how it came to be. Honestly, I mean, there's no, you know, I don't have, it wasn't a dream. It was just like, you know what? I'm a creative and I want to pick some of the folks at the top of their game. And I always be like, who can I call on that's another creative that would, sit down and really understand what we're trying to do, and who is already tapped into, operating their God given gift. And understand that, we can really be creative, like a creative phenomenon. So, Cre8tive Heads, people who are at the top of their game. I want to bring all the heads to the table, who are at the top of their game, sit them down, and let's, see how this could kind of come and, come about. So,
Is that where the name Cre8tive Heads came from?
I was sitting down. Initially, I was like, I want, 8 people to be in this room, and I want to create
Mm.
these creative Avengers. So we take over the world. No, I mean, that was truly, but it's as I grow, I think we have about 5 or 4 people on the team. Again, it's folks that are at the top of their game who, I mean, I know that when I sat down, and it took some time. Like I really just even sitting down with different people. We had crossed paths maybe in 2018, 2016, and then this didn't come into fruition. That Creative Heads, was incorporated in 2016, but some of these relationships did not happen until 2018. Honestly,
Mm.
2020.
Yeah, yeah.
If not 2019. So, just sitting down, really thinking about folks who are at the top of their game that could bring like the dopest of the dope to the table and sit down and truly understand that, it's not just about money all the time. It's about how we can really creatively put concepts out there that can kind of change the world. So that's something that, yeah, creative heads, the folks that had like, creative ideas and things of that nature.
What are some of the? This is a two-parter. What are some of the pitfalls that you've that have beset you, and what are some of the surprising things that have happened, good surprises that have happened on this journey of having an LLC and of having a creative agency?
Um, Projects, man. Some of the projects that we have had, some of the people that we have the opportunity to work with. I'll start with the positive. Or
Mm-hmm.
some of the things, the successes. Some of the people that we've had the opportunity to work with are phenomenal. We've worked with, from large corporations to just everyday entrepreneurs that really brought their A game, and they really surprised me with, just that high level thinking. The hearts, man, the hearts behind these people. Like I said, by the time we're done working with folks, they're not just clients. It's almost like they're family and friends. Where you sit down and you just like, this is just a good person. I work with
Mm.
some folks that kind of a little on the, you know, cuckoo side. I try not to call
Yeah.
people crazy, but but the people that we've worked with just kind of warm my heart. And it's just like, man, God, you thought enough of me to allow us to, take some of the contracts or take on some of the people, that we have, and then just learning what their stories are. It's like, it's not perfect because nothing's perfect, but you'd be like, man, that's a good client. So those are some of the successes. Working with the people, the hearts behind the people, some of the types of projects that we get, how creative we can kind of be, the trusting part. People trust you with their visions. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
even when we're sitting down at the drawing table and we just like, ooh, it's going to be a rough one right here. People trust us to take it from start to finish because that's our job. So, I mean, but there's still a real part behind it where you sitting down. I'm not going to act like I don't get stuck on design sometimes, or I have to go back to the drawing table 3 or 4 times and you be like, oh, Jesus, what made me do this again? But I
Mm.
go back to that whole credo, and I left something out in the origin part. I'll go back to that in a minute. I left something out in that.
Yeah.
But I kind of go back to our creative credo. And I guess I can speak on it now. That's where, when I prayed for this business, I really did. When you asked me where did the name Creative Heads come from,
Mm-hmm.
so I lied. I'm gonna go back and fix this now. It was Deuteronomy
Ah.
28 and Deuteronomy 28 and 14. I asked, it was where I was sitting there, I was reading when I took it before God, and I was like, how can I be my best self to people? And I mean, what stuck out to me was, allow me to be the head and not the tail, the lender and not the
Mm.
borrower. And that was something that really stuck with me. And when it made me think about the people, because when I was thinking about, all of these brilliant brains that kind of come to us with these ideas, it's just like, dang, Lord, give me the creative sense to kind of help them. So, and he has, even when we're stuck, it's just like he always take me back to that, because I mean, everybody, I won't say everybody, but sometimes you be like, oh, I just want to give up and throw in the towel. And it's just like what I told you, you can be the head and not the tail, above and not beneath, the lender and not the borrower. So I go back to that. And sitting down on those tough days, it's just kind of like, man, it all comes together. The creative projects, the people, their hearts, their excitement. That I love that. I would never, ever, ever, ever. That's what kind of brings me the most joy is when people get their concepts and they like, yo, oh, it's the reaction for me. So
Yeah.
I stick with that. That's the positive. And also to a bit of the origin story when I was like, oh yeah, the head that comes to the table. No, 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 no. It was Deuteronomy. It was definitely Deuteronomy 28. Some of the pitfalls was starting is the momentum push, like really getting when people are. Let me speak for Jocelyn. When I was building this business, and even with the nonprofit, that momentum push, that first initial push to get this thing off the ground, that's a heck of a push. You some of you almost get defeated, go back to it and just, I remember like, not having the resources, but the projects were coming in and then it was so unbalanced some nights when you got projects, you have money coming in, but it's just you. So you
Yeah.
lose some of your edges and you be like, Lord. But then, um, the you say you work 40 hours with a regular job, and when you own your business, you're gonna work about 80 hours a week. When you're really putting it in. So I remember some sleepless nights being like, "Ooh, this is a lot." But that lot, if you persevere through it, I mean, that's where the modules came from. That is where you sit down and put different processes in place that can kind of help you be more efficient with your business. That's where you kind of build partnerships. But you have to
Right.
be patient. You have to be patient, and you tell yourself, "Hey, I'm in it for the long haul. This is the end goal." And you put your mind to it, and you just kind of push through, do it.
So there's sort of like it's like a pull and a tug in your story. A lot of and dare I say a contradiction, sort of. Not on purpose, of course, but like because we talk about creative heads and you talk about having multiple people at the table, but a lot of times, and I don't want to call it a startup, but it's no disrespect to call it a startup because you within 5 years, you within 5 years, it's a startup for sure. Um, it's no fault of your own. So I did all of this, the
Yeah, we're babies
disclaiming and
again.
all, yeah, absolutely. But a very, very strong baby for sure. And so, but my question is, there is, I want to say a dichotomy between, you know, I want a group of people that I create with. And then oftentimes I find myself doing a lot of this stuff by myself. So where's the struggle with that? Like, can you tell me about your feelings about that? Oftentimes, like when your desire, like when the vision isn't necessarily matching up with what is right now.
Sure. Um, I will be honest with you. I prayed for people because I have been doing this for the last 11 years. Oh God, it's probably longer than that. My goodness. So I've been doing this for a long time, and people come and people go, but you have to have the right type of people at your table that understand how you're going to build and what you're going to build and what the end goal is. So honestly, I would say, looking back at just people in general, you want to get people that can understand your mission, that can
Mm,
understand, that are aligned with your vision. You don't, you can sit down and you can tell them about it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sale. That they have to understand the passion behind the project, and the purpose. That you know, purpose doesn't always you don't always get a quick paycheck all the time, but it will come. And there's a price for that because some people are just like, yo, I dig it. I really do understand it. I love it. And some people it's like, ah. And then when it comes to the work itself, you have to have folks that can really sit down and, I call them design critiques. We've been doing this since like art school. We sit down and have a design critique so that people's voices can be heard. I always My voice is not the only voice at the table. Yeah, it might have been a table that I started off building the base of, but that's a table that we can all sit down and we bring something to the table and we build it together. So I have it so that it's not an I, but it was under my just understanding that your voice is heard. Um, Whether you want to be heard or not, I'm going to be like, hey, yo, what do you think? Most of the time, folks want to be behind the scenes, and I pull them right out and be like, no, I need you. Like, what do you think about this? So I think it's the allowing people to kind of operate in their own lane, in their own strength, give talent, while understanding the vision for a company. You can give people creative freedom to do exactly what it is that they want to do because that's what they're going to do the strongest. That's how they're going to operate and excel and go the furthest if you allow them to be who they are, and have a voice while sitting down with a common goal in mind. So that's kind of my approach to it. But I pray for people because I've worked with some amazing people, and I've worked with some not so amazing people,
Yeah.
and the not so amazing people are the people that I don't desire to work with. So
Yeah.
the folks that we've got, I can truly say, I remember. Yeah, I mean, I know everything go back to praying, but I remember praying, being like, God, send me some amazingly like talented, dope people who are, already established in their craft, and who can help me, be my best self because iron sharpens iron. I believe that iron sharpens iron. I'm not the smartest person at our table. Excuse me. I don't want to be the smartest person at our table. I sit down. I love to learn. I love
Absolutely.
to absorb. I love to, sit down and be like, blow my mind. I like to make me have an aha moment, that light bulb moment. I love to learn. So, yeah, that's something that I thank God that I had the opportunity to. He sent them, but I was like, I felt like I kind of hand selected. I would say, when did we meet? 2018, and
Sounds
this was
about right.
like, yeah, we met in like 2018, and we sat down and we had not talked in I know 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then it was like a full circle moment where it's just like let's see what keep going, what's going on with Keep. So I mean that's kind of, and I also know the caliber and just the quality of people. I love that just the quality of person. Who's not so beside themselves or so full of themselves that they cannot learn or cannot absorb. So that's something that's important to me. But pairing it with the mission and the vision, that's something that's honestly a little bit more divine. That I can't take credit for that because I was like,
Yeah.
I remember praying and being like, God, please, Jesus, please send me somebody, please. So
Yeah.
you know that's, and he so far so good. I can't complain.
No, I think that's a great segue into the question, this last question that I want to ask you. You talked about pretty much vision casting and making sure that, um, I mean, you didn't use the word vision casting,
I
but
like
you,
that you
you,
have to see that. I highlight vision casting.
well, no, yeah, well, I mean, that's my point. Like, I think you do a great job of casting vision to our team, right? And so that, while you were speaking, of course, I was listening to you. I said, well, that's what a leader does. And then we got into the whole topic of humility and things of that nature. There's a certain level of humility that you yourself possess. There's a certain way in which you lead that requires humility. And so my question to you is, where did it come from? And like where did that and in my opinion, if we're being honest, that's really kind of like the only way to lead well is if
Damn.
if you're humble. There's a certain modesty to you as well because you're the artwork that I've seen you do, the graphics that I've seen you do are amazing and out of this
Oh, praise
world.
God for real.
Is of course you say architect. Of course, architects are artistic and all of that type of stuff. And if my New Jersey accent is betraying me, I
Bring
said
it out.
artistic, not
Bring
autistic.
it. Bring it out.
So so my question is, where did you learn to lead in such a way where you had to be, humble in leading?
Um, Well, honestly, in order to lead, you must follow.
Mm,
So I have had some amazing I've had some amazing mentors, but I can truly say I've had some amazing ones, but there was this one not so amazing one. And I said, you know what? If I ever had the opportunity to lead, that's what I don't want to be. I want a team that can sit down and we can learn from each other. I want to sit in a room and hear voices and allow them to, my voice is not the loudest one in there unless I'm laughing or something.
mhm,
I would like to, sit down and focus on team. Cause seriously, it's so much, you know, I don't want to go to church or nothing. But Jesus had disciples. I mean,
mhm,
he had the people that were in place for different things. And I'm not I'm not Jesus at all. Please
mhm.
don't take that. But I'm just saying I definitely like to tell people that because some people, oh, she thinks she Jesus. But no,
No, I just said that she was humble and modest,
nah,
man.
right straight up, nah. Yeah, hell, she knows. She has the Jesus complex. Nah, that's not me at all. But just really appreciating what is brought to the table. I know what I bring, but I also know that it's not just me. I mean, y'all bring some amazing stuff to the table. I mean, I can sit down. Yeah, I can say I do websites. We do logos, this, that, and that third. But some of the stuff that y'all do, I be sitting there like, ooh, I'm so happy that y'all do it and it's not me. But it
Mhm,
also blows my mind because I know the thought process that goes into it. But I go back to, in order to lead, you gotta follow. I had to follow somebody to get here, and
mhm,
the majority of them were some amazing people. I mean, amazing people. I shout some of them out. Like Lisa Borders was one that I sat down and I was on this board with the called Global Shapers with the city of Atlanta with the World Economic Forum, and we had the opportunity where Coca-Cola was one of our like greatest partners. I mean, Coca-Cola's always just done some phenomenal stuff, but Lisa Borders was at Coca-Cola at one point in time, and she was one of the best like just mentors ever. Like her every nugget that she dropped, it's just like what. Andrew Young was another one. We used to have all these fireside chats with some of
mhm,
these folks, and just to kind of sit down and absorb some of the wisdom. Dennis Lockhart, Judith Pickens. I mean, I can sit
mhm.
down and go on for days with some of the people that have poured into me and given me nuggets, and I've kind of taken it, put my own little spin on it, but I absorbed it. I took it from what it was, and I was just like, man, let me write this down real quick to make sure. What you say? You said what? That's just who I am. I'm not going to. I want to learn. I want to be like, okay, so we want to be, the dopest creative design agency in the world. How do we do that? And it's like you sit down and you have other dope creative agencies out there too. I learn from them too. We can all sit down and we can coexist in the world together to where we are all making a difference. It's
Mhm.
about the difference. It's about, the gift that you bring to the table. I respect another agency just like mine. I mean, if we gonna compete, we gonna have a great competition at the end. We gonna shake hands and be like, yo, that was dope. So it's always what I can absorb. It's always what I can take in. It's always, how I can help somebody else, honestly. And yeah, how I can help somebody else. And when I sit down and be like, well, how can somebody else help me?
Mhm.
It's most of the time it's what I lack. What I lack. How can I'm not the strongest in X, Y, and Z. I see that you're stronger. Do
Mm,
you want to help me? How can,
mm.
we work together to make it happen? Yeah, I'm going to always want to learn from somebody else.
I, and I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm speaking to the entrepreneur right now. I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs fall by the wayside, right? Where they have been told that they do a lot of things well, right? But and we spoke about it. We're not Jesus. None of us are Jesus except for Jesus. He is the only one who does all things well, right? And so what the entrepreneur doesn't always understand and has to come to the end of themselves to understand sometimes is that, hey, I'm good at this, and maybe this, and I want to get better at this. But even all of the things that I'm good at, I might not be able to do all of them at once. And even all of the things that I'm good at that I can't do all at once, there are still some other things that are required in this field that I absolutely either have not enough time to do because I'm doing all of those other things, or B, let's be honest with myself.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not good at this.
yeah.
And I do not have the time to get good at this. My business will fail because I'm trying to work at getting good at this. I will
Correct.
never start and I will never finish. So I think that's great that I think that's great that this company is pretty much built on that
Oh
without like
man.
you know what I mean, like without
Yeah.
even you know what I mean, like hey, we already understand this. It takes it takes a village to raise this person's
Oh yeah.
baby
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we're
yeah.
creating a project for.
And it's not always, I mean, most people too, like, it's not always about self, you know. Yeah, I eat, but I honestly, let me eat last. Now, I'm gonna give myself some nourishment so I can make it through. I ain't gonna be parched and famine, but let me sit down. If I can build you up, like, it might not be my season. My season, it might be your season. We might have to, it might be Keith's season where it's just like, yo, it's some dope opportunities out there. Let's build this program specifically for this to capitalize and take advantage of that opportunity. It ain't always about Jocelyn. What I do at, the end of the day, because I mean, even what you were saying to piggyback off of it, that's overwhelming. Trying to be all, no, 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 no. That's a best practice that I take with me every day. On my list of things to do, it's gonna be 3 to 5 things. It's never gonna be 6 because and this is just me. It's overwhelming to try to make a to-do list that got 10 things on it in a 24-hour period. I'll sit down and I'll say, you know what? These 3 to 5 things I can do. I can do them well. I can do them efficiently. I can meet my deadline. I'm not gonna put unreal expectations on myself. They're gonna get done. I do that in business as well. I'm not gonna say, you know what? We are experts in swan diving and we know everything about swan diving. No, we gonna stick to branding. We're gonna stick to these logos. We're gonna stick to the website. We got multimedia, which is, photography, videography. That's what we're gonna stick to. Digital
Podcast.
print. Because I know that I can run circles in those areas and have fun. You take me over and be like Jocelyn Swan Dive. Absolutely, I won't. I will not. And it's okay to be like, that's not what I do. But I know somebody else who do it, and I can refer them. I can give you a referral. I can recommend somebody that's amazing, and give somebody else a paycheck or some, business. But I ain't gonna do it.
I mean, I think that's a lot for us to share with people. Someone who might be struggling with that, someone looking for advice on how to do something like what you've done and are continuing to do. So here's another question that I want to ask for the budding entrepreneur, the budding, I don't want to say budding creative because you are creative,
Good.
person out there. But what is a piece of advice what is another piece of advice rather that you would give to someone looking to do anything that they haven't done before?
Do it. Like, sit down. I mean, and I know that's crazy, but do it. Like, do not. If there's something in your heart, where's my heart? Do this mic. I
It's
don't know
on.
which side my heart on, but
You can just do the middle.
look, if it's something on the inside of you that you feel like a tug, or that has been tugging, or something tugging at you, pray about it, but do it. Like, why not? I sit down and I see so many brilliant ideas fall by the wayside, and I'm just like, I should steal it because you're not gonna do it. But I'll encourage somebody because I don't want nothing else to do.
I'm
Honestly,
gonna edit that. I'm gonna edit that part out.
right, right. I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna steal it. But no, but no. I encourage people to do what makes them happy. It's not even what makes them happy. It could be your calling. It could be the very next thing that gives you that paycheck that you've been looking for, or could save a life, or you could inspire somebody else. It's just like, do it. If I would have sat on this, somebody I take that. I'm going to shout her out because Erica Guffey is another one of our advisors that when I was thinking about creating this, particular concept, I was like, I'm tucking it, I'm putting it all under here. And she was just like, no, no, ma'am, you need to do this. And she kept saying, just do it. And I remember she got on my nerves so bad. And I was just like, you know what? Let me sit down and really see what this is about. And it wasn't just, it became catch all anymore. When God put his stamp of approval on it, when he was, went to Deuteronomy 28, because everything has to make sense to me in that way. So that, cause I'm not gonna have do it. That's another thing. If you're gonna do it, don't have do it. Do it. Like sit down and, you know, write down the ideas or the people that you think that you can get in touch with, or call somebody. Call us. It doesn't matter. Call somebody. Call your best friend, but get it done. So that it's not something that 2 years down the line you're like, dang, I wish I would have done that. Just do it. I mean, you don't have to have all of the working pieces. We did not. I did not. Everything. Now, here's the thing. I'm a perfectionist. I think that's the architect in me, because sometimes you can be held liable for things on that end. But when you're sitting down and you have a concept, or a business or idea, all of the pieces, it don't have to make sense. You might not see the whole staircase. Take the first step. And just stepping stones. I mean, and there are a lot of times where I did get the short end of the stick, but I took them joints and I made a ladder. I was just like, listen, let me take every little nugget. Let me take this short stick here. Let me take this short stick here. Let me build a ladder, and I'm going to continue to climb. So you don't have to have all the pieces. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know everybody. Allow yourself to grow and, appreciate that time in the process too, because you look back and be like, man, I was broke at the joke. I ain't had nobody. I ain't had no friends. I ain't had no team. I ain't had nothing except for me. And, and let me not try to sell like, I was sitting in a room, because, a lot of people, these concepts come from sitting in a dark room and they had like a piece of bread. Nah, it wasn't that. Just you have to take what you got and, make it into something.
Yeah.
So it's not a sob story. I wasn't in my car. I
Absolutely.
wasn't homeless or nothing. But shout
So
out to
everybody,
those. Like straight up. Like, you have to, we live in a world. We live in a world where you got to give that credit. You know what though? For that person that did that was in their car homeless. Shout out. Like, I remember Tyler Perry's story. He did it. Look at
absolutely.
him. Whole network.
So speaking of which, I mean, Tyler Perry started off, he was homeless and worked his way up
Absolutely.
to $1 billion+
Man.
enterprise, So with that, here's my final question to you. And with this question, I bet you could tell that I've been on many a dating site in my lifetime.
Come on,
Where
dates?
did no. No.
Keep said
Where-
cut it out. You got
where-
serious?
yeah. Where do you see yourself? Where does instead of you, where does Creative Heads want to be in the next 5 years? Let's vision cast one more time for this podcast before we go.
We want to be creating like creative campaigns and just, thought-provoking materials that allow people to really just kind of, it's almost kind of stuff to make the world go round. We want to sit down and we want to be game changers. We want to sit down and be thought leaders. We want to, because right now we're all operating kind of in our own lane, but it's all about being a thought leader, being, public speaking for not all of our staff, even those that don't want to speak, putting them at the top of, not only class, but the top of that, their industry ladder, where it's just like, yeah, we are all individually blessed with talents where, like I say, I do design and development. We have graphic designers and brand strategists, but I want them to be where they are sitting down giving the, like tip top advice in communities and areas. I don't me talking about some tip top advice. Y'all understand what I'm saying out there. But like I said, just those thought leaders that really can contribute to the industry and can contribute to just like giving that creative game to folks. And then as a whole, I want for us to, be in competition with some of the, and that's not even a competition, but just kind of be at the top of our game when it comes to just creative agencies within not just Atlanta, but it's a global thing because we have a global connection to allow our thoughts to kind of penetrate local communities, but there's a global thinking around it. They're the global reach. So I want us to kind of have a global reach. It's not even a kind of. I want us to be able to sit down and be like, that campaign right there allowed people to change the world, change their thinking. When Michael Jackson, I think about some of the things that he did before the internet, when he was traveling. Like, this man broke so many records prior to the internet, and just his global reach. That's the kind of the reach that we want in a creative way. We want to be able to reach, you know, Africa, UK, Australia. I'm trying to go to Antarctica and be like, when you see a little light bulb somewhere, you know, we've been there. We've had our, you know, thought leaders to sit down and speak with some of the best at the top of their game around the world to contribute in a way, to where it matters. It's just not about, you know, the work that we put out there. It's about the imprint that we leave.
I love it. Um,
Oh yeah.
I have one more question for you, and I
Yes.
forgot it. I
Keep
forgot.
that out. One more question for you.
Yeah, and it's going. But I'm sure that we'll have more moments like these.
Oh
Um,
man, this has been phenomenal.
yeah, this has been rich. I thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today and last week. So speaking of which, next week, the tables will be turned, and Jocelyn will be talking to me about
Yes.
why podcast. Well, no, why podcast channel, and so really excited to talk about that and to delve into that. It's not just another podcast. I never want to do just another podcast. So we'll get
Of
into
course.
that next week. Jocelyn, I thank you so much for
Thank you.
being here with me today. If you are listening to this on YouTube, you've got everything all at your fingertips right here. So stay tuned for the episode that I just talked about. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel that you are watching right now. If you are listening to this on any podcast platform, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you are listening to this on Patreon, thank you so much for listening on Patreon, and thank you for
Thank
your
you.
patronage. We are starting up a Patreon, so and there'll be more updates on that coming soon. We do have a Facebook page, right, Jocelyn?
It is at Creative Heads. It is Facebook backslash Creative Heads.
Face-
CRE, the number 8, TIVE Heads. HEADS.
That's facebook.com/
Creative Heads.
creative heads,
Yep.
and it's CRE8
Yep.
TIVEHEADS. And so, with that said, I know I'm missing something. I
That's
know I'm
okay.
missing
No,
something.
you
I
did good.
know I'm trying to remember it real quick before we leave. Oh yeah,
This
here we
is.
go.
Oh,
Website. Can't forget that. So if all the stuff that she talked about today and last week, and you say, okay, I want to, but how about I just give you my money so you can do the thing that I want you to do? It is www.creativeheads.com. Very easy to find. CRE8TIVEHEADS.com. You can hit us up there, and we will be sure to hit you back.
yes, indeed.
My name is Cre8tive Robertson. This has been an episode off of the Cre8tive Heads podcast channel. She has also been Jocelyn Robinson, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Thanks, Keith.
We gotta think of it. I'm gonna think of one. I'm gonna think of one, and it's gonna be super cool. We're out. Peace.